SI was a little rough.
It was
SI was definitely a little bit rough. Kind of ended up blowing up our roster a little bit. Kind of led to me retiring. It was not a good performance for myself personally, and just some other issues, factored into that.
We didn't perform as well as we were hoping to, but we did have a rough season going into it.
I mean, it was kind of always my dream to play at SI. I feel like we had some internal issues that didn't really get fleshed out until afterwards.
We made a lot of changes. We worked really hard to basically accommodate for those weaknesses we had. Unfortunately, they didn't come together quite like we had hoped, and we just didn't have enough time to smoothen everything out before the tournament.
We were a roster for like a year, so it was a good test of it, and now kind of excited to try something new.
Down by Lagonas, Rampy, you get one more opportunity to clutch up big for Space Station Gaming. Time is of the essence here. You've got to get moving, and he cannot.
Our goal was to win, but obviously, a week and a half of practice going into that big an event, you're kind of fighting uphill. It sucks to fall short, and I would much rather us to end on top.
We had high expectations going into the tournament, even with our circumstances. We fell short, and I'm excited to get back to the top with our new fifth.
playing against the international teams at SI was very refreshing because we've been stuck within our own region for so long.
And playing international teams, it's great because it's meta clashing. Every region has its own meta, so it's really fun playing different metas.
It's a whole new experience. They play completely different to anything you're used to.
You definitely learn a lot of niche things from them. You kind of have to take away their general play styles. Like Latin America, they play a little bit aggressive in the mid round. In Europe, they kind of just snowball their leads.
When we were watching LatTime teams, we're like, these guys are playing Call of Duty, but they're actually doing it the best, so.
We definitely learned a lot. We've already put some things we've learned into our play already.
Just being able to go and compete internationally again against Brazilian teams, APAC teams, European teams, it was a good experience and a reminder of why we're doing this,
Hopefully, going forward, we have more LAN events and we're able to play more international teams.
All right, well, it's only moments away from our very first matchup here on our second Playday of Stage 2, Michael, and got some interesting things to keep an eye on for this matchup. DarkZero's obviously going in with their new roster. Yesterday, they had some struggles to close out their matchup. Spacestation looked really good against a top-tier team with Sonics, despite the fact that their shiny new acquisition of Hot and Cold put up a bottom 5 league performance yesterday. Do you think there's going to be any differences today from what we saw yesterday? Do you think the struggles of Hot and Cold or the struggles from DarkZero to close out in the clutch are going to carry over to today's matchup on Villa?
I think that both of these teams have a lot of learning yet to do with their current roster iterations. Hot and Cold has come in really strong, but at the same time, that first match being a little bit of a structure, he's got to find his place. DarkZero, Pambazoo. Really impressive performance to start things off. What we expected from a rookie, I said it during the match, I'll repeat it now. He didn't have the same blowout performance that we saw from the likes of Kino when he first debuted, but he's looking solid and he could fit right into this team.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard when you have a team like DarkZero that plays to the system so well, and we talked about it on yesterday's broadcast, but we'll repeat it today too. Even when they picked up Hyper and NJR, even Skies to a certain extent, had some struggles on this team finding their place on the squad. DarkZero can take outstanding players who play their own style and keep them just as good, but they need to play the way that DarkZero plays. So for Pambazoo, I have no doubt, given his performance in Challenger League, that we're going to see him continue to improve, but only one play day is not enough time to give you a good sample size. I'm most interested, though, in Hot and Cold. He was the man that was talked about probably the most out of anybody back in Stage 1 because of how he just stormed through the matches with Mirage. Do you think it's his role on Space Station that might have hindered him? Do you think it's just the first game nerves, or do you think there's something more to it?
We're talking about the same thing with Pambazoo, right? Obviously, DarkZero sees something in him. That's why they picked him up. He had an okay match. His excuse is that he's a rookie. But the frank matter here, or the root of the matter, I guess is better to put it, is that you can only have so many kills. That's just how these things work. Eventually, someone's going to perform so well that someone else on your team will have a bad day. And like, for example, yesterday for DarkZero, it was Hyper. Hyper, what? It was 19 kills he finished with? Something ridiculous like that. And, you know, it's okay to not have your score line reflect the potential that we all know you have as a player. So Hot and Cold being quiet on day one doesn't shock me. And I don't think it's indicative of him taking a blow as a player. You gotta remember, it's the same guy, you know? How he slots into the team, we'll see. I think he was, he for the longest time was a support player. Then when he went on to Mirage, he became like one of the premier fraggers, regardless of what role he was actually playing on that team. Now he's on Space Station, and think about it: is he really gonna take a fragging role on that lineup? I mean, I don't know. We'll find out, really. I guess maybe today will be a little bit different, but I mean, they still won the match, Parker.
They didn't just win the match, Michael. It was a 7-4 over the Sonics. Obviously, the Sonics were one of the top teams last season. This is the core of that old E United roster, minus Alfama plus Super, and they went from being bottom of North America to just soaring to the top. So, yeah, for them, I mean, I think Space Station yesterday beat a lot of expectations, especially given the fact that Space Station did have some struggles when Luke was on this roster. Now, you're tired of us talking about Canadian departing the team. We get it. We're tired of talking about it, but there are plenty of people who watch who, to them, they might not understand how big of an impact that had on the squad. When Space Station looked for a proper replacement for Canadian, they could have very easily picked up an IGL were one available, but instead they went for a player who's got a high upside in the server and have made some role swaps. On Flank Watch, Thinking Nate is now playing more hard support. You've seen Bosco be capable of flexing to hard support as well, and Fultz has taken up a greater leadership role on the team. And they weren't kidding when they said that there was going to be a new look for this squad moving forward.
Yeah, it is definitely a new look. And I mean, you know, talking about actual assigned roles, technically speaking, Hot N is playing a lot of Sledge, a lot of Mozzie. At least that's what we've seen from the first match from SSG. So you would think that he would be fragging out in those roles, but you know, sometimes it's not the right time and the right place. But the community poll, this one is pretty straightforward. I'm sure a lot of you would have expected it. It's going to be the Revenge Tour versus the Rookie Campaign. Who's going to rep their team today? That's the question. A head-to-head between Pan Bazoo and Hot and Cold. I think you could probably see this one coming from a mile away. I mean, it's the talking points that we've been bringing up throughout this whole pre-show. And it's because these are the two most interesting players on their respective teams, given the circumstances they find themselves in. And we've got a lot of other stuff going on here. Obviously, the role changes on SSG. The fact that BC is back on the playing bench. But it's, you know, these two players, I think, attract most of the attention. And, yeah, they are a tale of opposites, but in positions where they similarly need to prove themselves.
Absolutely. And I mean, if you look at the composition of DarkZero, they've always got Hyper there to lead them forward. NJR plays a very similar style. Eclipse can step up into the fray if need be. So for somebody like Panbazoo, if he can be consistent, then this is going to add even more firepower to an already stacked lineup of DarkZero. Space Station, the same thing. They didn't need Hot and Cold to really do that much in the server yesterday because they had Rampy and Fultz to lead the charge forward. If Hot and Cold is capable of getting those kills, well, there might be a little bit less for the rest of the team, but ultimately it could help Space Station more. The speculation will continue onwards. As you can see, we're ready to get underway with DarkZero versus Space Station. It's our very first matchup here on Stage 2 Playday number 2. We're on Villa, and we're already halfway through the operator bans. And anything on the screen right now, Michael, that sticks out to you?
Well, oh wow, some big ones here. So Villa's a very big map with lots of walls that you need to cover. That's why Mute is one of the most popular defenders on this map, hands down. But him being banned out, that's going to limit your options. I like that ban from SSG. Valkyrie is a very predictable ban. The reason you get rid of the Habana is the same reason you would ban an Ace. The ranged hard destruction is far greater and more proficient on this map than on most others. So in this case, it's the Habana ban instead of the Ace. I like that. As for the Thatcher, I mean, for those of you who don't watch CG Sports, it is the most common ban, I think, for attackers right now. I'd have to double check that, but, you know, just thinking off the top of my head, I can't think of anyone who comes even close. So, all very predictable in terms of the bans here, specifically surrounding the map. me see if there's any real difference when it comes to, or real target bans when it comes to the operators per the teams. I don't imagine so. It mostly looks like it's map dependent. The Hibana instead of an ace is kind of interesting, but apart from that,
Obviously, every single time we see Flores is going to be fascinating, too, just simply the fact that he's new. Did you know this, Michael? Every single strategy that involves Flores is going to be a new strategy. Do you know why that is?
Because he's a new operator.
Because
or newly
he's a new
introduced,
operator, Michael!
Yeah, newly introduced to professional play. For those of you who do not know, when a new operator comes out, there is I think it's a 3-month waiting period before they can actually play in competitive. So
that is correct.
Here we are.
Ace didn't really see and hasn't really seen as much play as we would have expected over the last 2 months or so because there were a rash of changes that happened right before the 6 Invitational. And one of the biggest ones was removing the smokes off of Ace. You gave him the Thermite instead. With how healthy Ace's pick rate was, this obviously was done to try to level him out. But in many ways, it's actually pushed Ace below a lot of the other hard breachers. So when you see him get brought, there's almost always a reasoning behind it. Because when you bring an Ace, you're sacrificing those smokes that come from the Thermite. Right. You're sacrificing the ability to cut through most destruction that a Maverick brings to you. It could also just be that with the Hibana ban, which was Thinking Nade's most played operator yesterday on attack, it could just be that Ace is the best substitute for that.
Well, yeah, you got to bring some kind of ranged hard destruction on Villa. Like, you can't bring the Thermite. You have to get close to these walls, and you're going to, die if you do that on this map. So it makes sense in this case, using those Selmas already to open up the statuary wall. This is a roam being hunted right now. Pambazoo barely making it out with his life, and he'll vault red stairs to potentially run downstairs and get back to the site. If he's able to do that, then good. His delay work is successful. He'll actually cross straight into aviation. That is very dangerous, but he makes it there just fine.
Hyper down below as well. No nitro cell available for him, whether it's pre-placed or has already been used, but it's one piece of destruction that he does not have on command unless it's already been set. And one small thing I want to touch upon about this Hibana that we were discussing earlier as to why there's an ace on the board, it was Spacestation who banned out the Hibana. So they are well aware of the fact that Thinking Nade is not going to be on this operator. This was obviously a stylistic and deliberate choice on their side of things. So the ace is not a reaction to a ban from DarkZero, but was one that was premeditated by SSG. So with that said, they're going to toss a ton of drones in. There goes one of Flores' drones as well, as Rampy had guided it into the middle of the site. The attack and execute from Spacestation is coming from Trophy Statuary. As you can see, NJR is hunkered down in study, and for now, he doesn't really have any presence from Spacestation.
Boom goes the Goyo shield in the West Hall or Long Hall. BC trying to hold this angle regardless. He's got the right kit for it. First casualty will be Hyper. Down he goes. The guns of Hot and Cold. And now more pressure being applied to top main stairs as a result. Now there are 2 defenders here still, and they still have plenty of ADSs. Those recharge, so they should be able to hold out here. If top main is controlled, then that could change the entire flow of this round.
And of course, Michael, it's Hot and Cold to get the very first kill against his own team. Pambazoo missing out on that Flores drone, and well, it doesn't quite go off to get the shield, so in this case, Pambazoo can play at the top of the stairs quite well. NJR sustaining some damage. As you can see, SSG has control of the site, or at least so we think. There's Fultz. He's in through the back. They're clobbering DZ, leaving Eclipse in a 1v4. He's not even going to grab one of them. A single member of Space Station dies, but everybody from DZ goes down first. Good job to Space Station as they take round number 1.
Hot and Cold was really exposed when he pushed in there through Aviator, but it was clearly a calculated tactic on his part, a called rush. Somebody's making the shot calling on SSG. That's what I'm noticing here, Parker. Right off the bat, night and day difference between what I remember from SSG without Canadian and what I'm seeing on SSG right now. Somebody made the rush execute shot call. Fultz came in from long haul. At the same time, Hot and Cold is exposing himself deep inside of Aviator to call all the aggro to him. And it worked. It worked out fantastically. There was plenty of follow-through on SSG. I honestly thought they were going to linger after they lost Hot and Cold, who was pushing a little bit too aggressively. But that's because I didn't see the top down. I didn't see the full picture until it had completed. So, well painted there from SSG. Nice first round for them. Looking forward to seeing if we'll get more of that as we continue on in this match.
Something that you also get tired of us talking about in regards to the gameplay and not even just the individual contributions that people will have on certain teams is that Villa for a long period of time had a distinction of being a very defender-sided map. Obviously, it's not necessarily the case anymore. There are plenty of matches where we see the attackers do exceptionally well. Now, when I look at the bans in particular, no Thatcher and no Hibana would suggest to me that the defenders have a bit more of a fighting chance than with another different sort of operator bans here. There's no Wamai being banned. Valkyrie is a very popular ban for defense, and she is often removed from play on Villa, so that shouldn't really change the equilibrium when it comes to attacking versus defending. So this is something to keep an eye on as we go forward. Because my read of these bans and my read of these lineups right now is that the defenders should have a slight advantage. Now, obviously, this boils down to teams, coordination, individual player performance, etc. But just based on the bans alone and what we're seeing from these compositions, I would argue that DZ should be able to take at minimum 3 rounds on defense, just based on what we know right now. If they can't hit that mark, then I would say that they're in a troubling spot.
Well, this is free real estate. Usually, when defending a trophy, you'll have some amount of a south roam, but not here for DarkZero. They forfeit it, and, well, obviously, that is good for Spacestation, considering they are doing a south clear. No contention whatsoever. In fact, DarkZero making their positions in sight known and saying, hey, come over here, we're ready to fight. But because Spacestation was able to get so much control so quickly, and this is, still 145 on the clock, they could set up however they want to, and they generally going to be pretty leisurely about their execution. The one thing they need to be worried about is the presence downstairs for the defenders. There is a Pulse who has a C4. He can make some plays. If this is not cleared out, there will be problems when the execution comes.
In fact, there's 3 Nitro cells on the board for DarkZero, and Hyper on that Goyo can roam downstairs as well. Spacestation should be aware of a good pulse play on Villa. Both Rampy and Canadian, when he was on the roster, used to fulfill that role, playing either a basement or a first floor lurk so that they could get a Nitro cell off and maybe stop the plant from going down. This is something that SSG is just going to keep in mind. Pulse is waiting for the call now to break on in as, well, you're going to have to be wary of that explosive end. None have been thrown out from DarkZero just yet, so 3 Nitro cells and 3 toxic canisters from NJR's smoke are also on the board. There's a lot here that DarkZero has at their disposal to stop SSG.
Yes, but on the other side, the reason this wall is getting opened up is because of how much time SSG had after their initial roam clear. There were no roamers, no delay. Well, now the wall is open, still have control top red. You've got plenty of time for the execution, and down goes the Pulse. This is where things get really rickety for DarkZero.
It's Hot and Cold leading the charge yet again, but DZ answers back onto Bosco. So say goodbye to your Nomad. Flank watch will need to be done manually if those air jabs aren't down. They're getting pings for Fultz to guide on in. Nitro Cell goes off. Fultz just springs in yet again. He does it. It was before, but now he's doing it on the second round. 3 kills for him watching Astro Stairs. Hyper is down below, completely isolated. No Nitro Cells. It's already been tossed out. Only be able to get another. Or not. Spraying through the floor, but this is a hopeless situation. Rampy might be able to get that diffuser down. 1 second left, and yes, it's successful. Hyper is in such a tough spot. He knows that there's a drone there marking him, and he'll continue to fire away. Lots of barricades and some default cams up to give him intel, but we've got 4 angry members of Spacestation looking to lock you out of the sight. Hyper swings up, and it's a 4th kill for Fultz as it's utter domination from SSG on that one.
The sheer game sense on Fultz. That was poetry in motion, Parker. He walked into sight, and yes, DarkZero was not watching Boar when they really should have. I don't... How you leaving a gap in your defense that wide? Anyway, Fultz walks in through that gap, and he just reads the defense like a book. Oh, beautiful stuff. Obviously, again, I want to go back to the just to step away from Fultz for a second here. The overall strategy from Spacestation was excellent that round, and I love to see it. Again, quick roam clear. No roamer contention means that they have plenty of time to rotate to Master and make a pinch execution between top red and Master. That is your dream execution scenario on that site. Then the Pulse is the first casualty. Your C4 from below, no longer a factor. They clear that out. And you still have 40 seconds to hit the site? I mean, everything's going right for SSG there. Even if Fultz's entry fails, they probably still win that round. And, you know, it's insult to injury there for DarkZero because they left that glaring gap in their defense, but the defense was already weak before they even got to blows because they didn't contest the roam clear. No time delay.
It's also 2 rounds in a row now where either somebody from SSG has made that call. That was your speculation back in round number 1, that there was a call that was made from Space Station to go for the rush. It happens again in round number 2. Fultz just sprints into the site, but you credited that to Fultz's ability to read the scene rather than a deliberate call. Now, we don't know which is correct. I think both could be correct. But regardless, that's 2 rounds in a row where Fultz in particular, being the only player to do this, found a weak spot and exploited it. And DarkZero either didn't have time to make that pivot or didn't have the knowledge in the first place as to where it was coming from.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Parker. The one thing we could definitely say is Fultz is having a real good game, at least so far.
Already, yes.
Yeah, so 2 rounds in, Space Station looking really solid. And I agree with your assessment earlier, too, that this is a defender-sided situation. So the pressure is mounting for DarkZero. They're going to have to change what's going on here, or they'll have problems when they get to the second half.
You hear the telltale sign of the Candelas from Ying, and another's going to go off now from Bosco, too. So 2 sets of blinding lights thrown on out, and it's being done to bait those smokes. Eclipse has only 1 remaining, and there's Hot and Cold, who through these 3 rounds, he's got every single opening pick. Troubling signs, though, for Space Station as Hyper immediately answers back and takes out the hottest hand for Space Station in Fultz. Not only is the Zofia off of the board and all that comes with her kit, but also the one player from Space Station who has been reliable at finding time and entry points. Pambazoo now shredded through a soft wall as Hot and Cold's going to get droned on in from that Flores drone. Rampy giving information. Hot and still playing off of it. I don't know if they're trying to secure the kill onto Pambazoo or not. Bosco splatters BC. He's going to grab another. No, but NJR's the better shot. To a 3v3, but it's really a 2v3 as Pambazoo is not upright. He's slowly bleeding out and will require a teammate to get to him. NJR took a beating in that engagement, though. Hyper's the only one at full HP. The bleeding of Pambazoo is done. He's finished off. NJR can't see Hot and Cold at all. It's 2 for Matthew Stevens, and he'll be looking for a 3rd onto Hyper. But no, the better shot from the Mozzie as he tries to make his way back into the site. His eyes on Memorial, playing around. A nice shot onto Rampy, and he might have another one lined up. It's him versus Thinking Nade. Thinking Nade attempting the plan, and Hyper will walk up very slowly. Calls being made, but no, Thinking Nade is better, and SSG goes perfect through these first 3 rounds.
Wow. So much to dissect there, Parker. Let's start with the fact that DarkZero is showing huge gaps in their defense. Massive. Every single round. First round, it's long haul. Fultz walks in. Second round, it's Boar. Fultz walks in. This round, it's Memorial. Not one defender in Memorial. All right, I'm starting to get agitated here, Parker. Now, credit where credit is due. You mentioned it, and you're right. Part of that is the fact that Space Station are throwing a lot of feints, and DarkZero are falling for those feints time and time again. What are those Candelas in Kitchen? He didn't follow that up as the Ying. Nobody's pushing in off the Candelas, so what are they? They're a fake. They're a bait for the attention of the defenders, and wow, did they work. So yes, admittedly, DarkZero are making mistakes, but they are not making these mistakes of their own volition. They are being baited into these mistakes by SSG, and that is what makes this so beautiful to watch. It is a masterclass right now from Space Station.
Well, obviously some frustration from DarkZero. They call a timeout after 3 rounds, and this puts you in a bit of a rough spot because if you continue to be in free fall, there is no other ripcord for you to pull, no parachute to help you slow that descent, especially when you swap sides. No matter what happens in this first half, there will be at least 1 round played where DarkZero will be on attack. If you start to win on attack, Space Station can call a timeout, but there's nothing to stop you at all if then you lose that momentum out. I understand why DZ did it. I think it's, to be honest, a good time for them to employ it. As you said, there's some very glaringly obvious problems with these defenses. They are being caught with their pants down, frankly, and I assume that Mint, their coach, knows that and is going to go out of his way to ensure that it stops happening, even if it's not a strategic decision, but just an emotional one. Because as you know, Michael, Sometimes you can have a very good strategy, but if you are nervous or upset or tilted, it can be very hard to actually execute on that.
I can also say that, this is a weird little anecdote here, but I want to put this out there. Sometimes the performance of the team overall can hinge on their perception of their own team's quality. So what they judge their teammates' performance to be. So when you pick up a player like Hot and Cold, who last season, or last stage, I should say, was the top, like the number 2 overall rated player in North America, and you have that confidence that comes with that, it kind of can carry you along, Parker, and it can enable you to play better. It can make you all get the right mindset, and that's regardless of Hotten's performance, and I think we're seeing a little bit of that here right now. BC will take some damage for that impact from below. That's just a little bit of luck for Fultz. He was going for the shield, but yeah, he's going to have a little bit of trouble moving into further engagements, BC specifically.
I want to see how Spacestation tackles this one. It was originally Panbazoo playing off of the spot that BC is on, but they made some minor alterations here. They'll go on to drone through the main doorway and head up towards the main stairs. NJR sees the shield blow up in front of him as there's a toxic canister as well. Spacestation, whether deliberate or not, is wasting a lot of the utility from DarkZero very early on. We're only a minute into this round. Now, this could be DarkZero trying to waste time, but as you've talked about it before, Spacestation, after they realized that they had a pretty clean line of sight, would have some troubles to pivot, and there's Fultz just walking right in. He can't capitalize on a second after taking down NJR. BC gets swatted away by Hot and Cold. Hot and Cold always involved in these early altercations, despite the fact that it was Fultz to get that lead-off kill. Through 4 rounds, Spacestation has won every single opening duel, and it now sets them up with a numbers advantage through the remaining half of this round.
But definitely not done yet. While DarkZero are down a man, they have solid positioning, and the clock is not so against them this time that it's unrecoverable. So certainly a winnable situation for DarkZero. All they need to do is hold out. SSG setting up to potentially open up a wall. Thinking Nade's going to drone to see what the deal is. Oh, C4 goes to the wrong side for Hyper, and he'll miss out on the kill opportunity. He's been droned out now, but Hyper is unlikely to lose these, so he'll stay confident and vigil on that window. We've also got the wall by Backbar opening up and, causing problems for Hotten, actually, as Eclipse lands a lot of shots onto him.
There's an armada of drones being thrown Eclipse's way, and he's just watching over towards 90. Panbazoo comes alive, takes out Rampy. Hot and Cold had sustained some damage earlier on from that fight with Eclipse, as Hyper now walks in for backup. SSG tries to storm on in. Down goes Hotten. Eclipse pulls out the sidearm. DZ's cleaning up now, putting Bosco into a 1v3. He'll swing in. Precarious spot for him to be, thinking there's somebody over by 90. There isn't. He'll take some damage from the Echo over by the bar. Yokai drone is up. Bosco, now disoriented. Can't really do too much with the soft wall, but Panbazoo has the cross, and finally DarkZero wins a round.
All right. That's what I like to see, Parker. DarkZero showing us what they're made of. And Panbazoo in particular, very impactful frags in that round. If you'll recall, he got the lead off in the second engagement. So the follow-up and what equalized was Panbazoo's excellent pick to put his team back in a advantage. Well, not an advantage, even man count, but you get the point. In a positional advantage, at least. He also got the last one, so good for him. Love to see that. Love to see that contribution. That was the most poorly coordinated round from SSG, but also, you got to keep in mind, Spacestation have been pulling out a lot of tricks to try and get DarkZero to look the wrong way for the first 3 attack rounds, and those tricks have been working. Also, DarkZero have been making small mistakes in their coverage. That round, DarkZero were able to address the fights directly, and that is despite the fact that so many walls got opened up. All the pressure being applied to these defenders, and DarkZero still prevails in that round. So well done to them. They recognized the issue, they addressed it directly, and also I do think that was probably one of the worst rounds we've seen from Spacestation so far. So that's a consideration. But first round on the board, DarkZero are in this.
The timeout worked, and of course, they don't really provide many openings for SSG to take advantage of. Eclipse in particular was so strong behind that bar back store, but the rest of the team also did their job. The small change by moving Panbazoo to a safer position, putting him in maybe more of a sheltered spot on the map, so that he doesn't have to immediately deal with the brunt of SSG's attack. Put somebody maybe more experienced like BC in that line of fire, and guess what? BC did a pretty admirable job. He wasted some time, tossed out his gas canisters before finally dying. But as we had talked about, Spacestation wasted a lot of that utility. It's entirely possible that BC was playing there to essentially die. Now, when we talk about utility, take a look at what's going on with Eclipse. No, Thunderbird is not in the game yet, so you need to play with a different healer. And in this case, if you're playing on defense, your only option is Doc, running the P90, which is very interesting. Yeah. Most players favor that MP5, but, I mean, Doc doesn't have access to the ACOG anymore, so who really knows? There's 2 ADSs in front of him, by the way, that he's sitting on top of, and look at, with everything going from DarkZero, how long it's going to take Spacestation just to clear him out of this closet.
Yeah, he's doing a great job of holding on right now, and, well, he hasn't gotten a kill yet, but at least he's delaying. Job done. There comes the Flores drone. I don't know if he got that one. He might have to dodge it. He barely survives thanks to the overheal. He overhealed himself, but finally the nade from Hot and Cold will take him down. That's really good coordination there from SSG, but it was expensive. So even though Eclipse did not get a kill, he certainly paid for his life and then some with all the utility he just burned.
There is an Aruni gate on the window. 2 ADSs positioned in there. All the stim pistols from the Doc, a deployable shield watching in that same direction with a frost mat under the window, and then a black mirror from Mira also looking at it. You're absolutely correct when you talk about how expensive that was. That's a third of DarkZero's utility, if not more, all in the same area, just to watch one position. The problem is that because you have so many sunk costs, if something goes awry, you can't really pivot. You kind of need to just stay with it and go all in.
But it's static utility, and the active utility being used by the attackers is just as expensive, I'd argue. I mean, at least for what we saw there in that execution. And we're at an equalized situation now. First casualty for SSG will be Hot and Cold, who has been a top performer so far.
Fultz has a camera behind him. They don't know if anybody's on it right now, and we can see that Eclipse is watching Pambazoo's perspective. He's not watching the cam, so Fultz could creep up, but there you go. He finally shoots it. He'll now try to stun and get some more information. He'll get it, but 2 kills in a row for DarkZero. They got the earlier pick on a Hot and Cold. Now Rampy is done. Drones will no longer have any explosive potential. A small swap up on the hard destructor, as well as Thinking Nate is now on this Maverick. He's carrying the diffuser, and with 20 seconds left, his job is to get into that site and get it down. NJR trades out Thinking Nate before Pambazoo falls to Fultz. Fultz will continue to march on forward. Bosco knows there's one over an Aviator, but there's too many eyes looking in Fultz's direction. He was off to a hot start, but he's cooled off a little bit as now DarkZero takes 2 rounds in a row.
Okay, so you were right. The timeout worked, Parker, but in more ways than one, and not just because of DarkZero locking up all of the holes they had in their defenses early on. They have fixed that, so good for DarkZero. But I'm also noticing that Space Station are playing a lot slower, and in a really bad way. They're also changing the strategy up, which is fine. They went for a Master exclusive that round and rotated players late to 90, which is okay, but it also is telling of a lack of success. If you're going to go for a Master only and then you rotate over to 90 late, like, yeah, you can get a late flank in, but you're more likely to just split your manpower. And considering it was even manpower, I don't know if that was a good call in a 4v4. I don't know. It's some weird wishy-washy strategy coming out from SSG, and it reminds me kind of the Space Station that I remember from last stage, you know, post-Canadian, when they're struggling. I know I was kind of excited for a little bit because I don't want to see any more of that. So now that we know it's still there, it's not as present, but we know it's still there, that changes the discussion a little bit. I do think that the signs of life we've seen from SSG on their executions through the first 3 rounds are amazing, though those were the awe there is amplified by DarkZero's really, you know, shaky play as well, which has been corrected. So now at least it looks like we are getting more of a match here. If DarkZero take 3-3, then this is, I'd say, still going to be advantage towards SSG, however, very slightly. If this goes to 4-2, though, if SSG can get this last round, then they are in a great position.
Well, their roam has been better, even if they're not necessarily supporting themselves when they're far off-site. It wasn't necessarily a roam from the Doc that we saw in the previous round, but it was an actual play on-site, so he was far enough off to waste time, but still be able to get back. Though I think we can all agree that Eclipse was not playing in a spot where he was ever going to get back safely to the site. He was absolutely playing there to die, and he knew that.
Yeah.
And that's why they'd expended so much. You can play, if you can kill 2 minutes a time, you rely on the remaining 4 players from your team to do the job. And guess what? DZ did an admirable one at that.
Well, slow entry here by main. It looks like a dedicated clear on the horizontal. I don't know what's going on upstairs. Looks like we do have some droning by 90, so there might be a follow-up to that. Not really seeing any clear up top, though, which is the main focus for DarkZero. Let's be clear. There's 3, I think, defenders on the top floor right now, maybe 2. Either way, a quantity, quite a few, I would say, considering the site. And that's going to cause some problems for SSG. If they don't clear this out and they try to hit the site direct on a horizontal, they'll have issues with the angles that the defenders have from above and the retake potential that gives them.
There's really no fear here from DarkZero as well. BC giving calls for that Nitro cell that we just saw in the hands of Hyper. And guess what? It hits its target, and Fultz is astonished at that one. If there's any player you want to knock off early, it's Fultz. And the second one would be Hot and Cold. So far for DarkZero, mission accomplished.
Yeah.
You've done what you need to do, taking the 2 best players from SSG in this matchup out of action.
Those are really important frags, as you say, Parker. And, you know, one thing I noticed about Hyper as of late is his C4s are some of the best in the business. And I am not exaggerating. I really do mean that. I think that Hyper lands more more C4s than most players. I just am constantly seeing him getting the C4 kills in the kill feed. So you got to get him early out if you can, so he doesn't have an opportunity. Because of that, low manpower for SSG.
There's some marks here as they're going to spring on in, but Pambazoo has the cross. Down go Bosco and Thinking Nade. Rampy's in a 1v4. He tries to tussle with NJR. There were multiple shotguns that would be pointed at his direction with a Warden just around the corner, but it's the sidearm that does the trick.
Yeah.
The first half, that's in the books. And guess what? It was a strong start for SSG, but after that timeout, DarkZero found their footing, and we go into the second half tied 3 apiece.
Big stuff for DZ to get that 3-3. I do think still a slight advantage to Space Station, of course, considering they took the advantage well, they broke even on the attacking half. This is a statistically slightly defender-sided map. So that last round, so the first 3 and the last 3 of the first half were completely different. SSG slowed down a lot after the DZ timeout. Now they are taking their timeout. DarkZero watching on as Space Station discuss their options. Hopefully Lycan is telling them, hey guys, you know, we lost our teeth for some reason halfway through that first half. Let's not do that going into the second. Because I do think that DarkZero corrected a lot of mistakes, to be clear. DarkZero improved a lot. But Space Station also slowed way down, and I don't know why.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, Space Station were so confident in their entry. Their coordination was good, and I think a large part of that was just simply that they were able to assess early on that DarkZero had holes in their defenses that they could exploit. When DarkZero started spreading out a little bit more, maybe not playing as a team directly, aka somebody sits in one angle and then you cover the cross so that if your teammate gets killed, you immediately trade it out. The one thing that DZ was doing was they were holding map control a lot better, and they had spread out their utility in such a way that Space Station needed more time to get through it all. We saw this in the SI finals last year, and we've seen this whenever dealing with Space Station before, is that if you let Space Station settle into a groove, they are masters at controlling the tempo and pacing of a matchup. It doesn't matter where their competition is coming from. It doesn't matter what region it is. They are exceptional at it. And a lot of people get tired of hearing about how we talk about, oh, they were so good during the Mute Mozzie meta. Well, what was the one thing that defined that meta more than anything? It was the timing that teams needed to gain information. SSG thrived when they were able to withhold that information, and then when they were on attack, just cut through it on their own. DZ switching some things up, I think, knocked SSG off of their footing, and it forced SSG to play DZ's game, and that's when DZ started to come alive. And they had some great performances on a number of different rounds, and the man that carried yesterday started to wake up and hyper-capitalized off of it. And Fultz and Houghton, with that same gusto that they'd break in before, evaporated.
You've got them up this round on the first defense. First round of second half. And we do have a mirror window set up here. I think Houghton's going to put one on the... Yeah, there it is, statuary wall. And that'll cover Master. You also have another in sight to cover Aviator. That'll be relevant later in the round. So this is the difference between some of the early strategies we were seeing from DZ and what we're seeing from SSG now is you've got the extended roam. You're trying to delay, you're investing utility in it. It has a high potential for success, but it also runs the risk of losing the round early. So it's a lot of it's just on the players. C4 from Fultz will land. Down goes Eclipse. He didn't hear the rip, and now he has to watch cams for the remainder of the round.
And whether it was a worthy toss or not, Eclipse still got that grenade off. Couldn't really do too much with it as the explosion from below opens up the black mirror. It was a joint effort as the Selma now goes off too. This is another change that came in very recently. Ace's Selmas will destroy the black mirror instead of just the wall around it. That is a secure position that now SSG has to forfeit. You can't play off of that spot the same way that you wanted to, and it's prompted SSG to now scramble to try to hold different parts of the map.
Now the Finka coming in here is going to be great for Pambazoo because he's already lost a lot of HP, so that heal is going to make him more sustainable in a gunfight. We've already seen 2 charges used there from Finka. And JR's on drones right now, so I don't know how many he has left. 1, there you go. Now, this is still advantage for Space Station, obviously, in man count, but the control that DarkZero has gives them a solid proposition for a site execution. I will say that I do think Space Station's going to be fine if they just bunker up here. They do have main control. They've got study control. There's no one on the balcony. Really, they just need to wait this out.
And look at this. Rampy's going to juggle these ADSs and potentially get them destroyed by Hyper over by 90. And then now they'll look over towards the vault with him on his belly, trying to see if anybody will peek him or get close by. DZ have, at this moment, a disadvantage. They've lost Eclipse early on, and now the disadvantage will grow with 30 seconds remaining. Intel is still up for Space Station. They're playing this angle over by Aviator quite aggressively, as it's going to be a joint push from DZ, a pinch over towards the model portion of the B-bomb site. And if BC heads into Aviator, well, you could end up getting gunned down. Pambazoo sprints on in. He's doing his best Fultz impersonation, but guess who's in on the fun? Fultz. 2 kills for him. BC pistol out, excuse me, takes out 2. Fultz and Rampy. Diffuser goes down. Bosco's in a 1v3. Everything was in SSG's favor until it wasn't. And now Bosco will have to retake. Good thing is that if you want somebody in this 1v3 situation, you're hard-pressed to find somebody better than Bosco. I'll start with 1 on the Hyper. That's a very pivotal kill. BC still in that position, as is NJR. Down on the ground. Some noise being made. BC is falling off. NJR prone. Bosco will fire away. The Finka doesn't need to do anything, but Bosco sees the location. Gunfire will continue to go. Flashbangs out. Bosco's completely blind. He knows it. This is troubling. Diffuser only 3 seconds away. You gotta hurry if you're Bosco. You can get the kills here, but it doesn't really matter because at this point, the round is DarkZero's kill or no kill. NJR gets it anyway, and it's the first time in this game that DZ holds a lead.
Okay. I was talking about SSG's critical decision-making in the first couple rounds of this match, and now we need to shift focus to DZ's critical decision-making because by Jove, that was the only play that DarkZero could have made to see success. And they did it confidently. Whoever made the call, we just have to go all at once, where there's no other way this works. That was the right call. And the follow-through by DarkZero. Love to see it. So many teams would not fully commit to a push like that. They would get flustered, frustrated. This isn't going to work. But at that point, DarkZero's backs were against the wall. There was no winning situation there for DZ if they played it standard and strategic. You got a bunch of people stacked up on Skull Door and maybe 1 trying to push long haul? No. Oh, 1 person on study balcony to cut off that pressure point. That's great. But still, generally, that will not work for you because SSG was stacked up with utility and ready to deny the plant. They had Evil Eyes, they had C4s, gas canisters. They would have squashed that push. Instead, DarkZero, they don't let it even get to that point. They just rush in, take the fights. And boy, howdy did it work.
Also, can we talk about BC Ace with the pistol out, getting a 2-piece with that? I would have loved to have seen that. And the perspective of BC was likely a wild one. That would have been a real trip, but we're not in a position yet where we're capable of digging back through these replays. At some point, we'll be able to watch them, though, with astonishment, I have no doubt.
Hopefully.
SSG, by the way, has taken their time out, so, I mean, What do you do at this point? Obviously, things didn't really go all that well. I am amazed at the brawl that happened and how DarkZero came out on top of it. Spacestation really let that one slip through their fingers. And I was going to make a snarky joke earlier on about how, well, how do you not, if you're DarkZero, how do you avoid choking the lead? Well, you just don't lead at all. That's how you get around it. But DZ's making me eat my words because I was actually going to make that at the tail end of the third round. And since then, DarkZero has put together an impressive body of work 4 rounds in a row.
Yeah.
SSG are very quickly losing the plot on this map.
Oh, I also want to mention really quickly, the Finka pick last round actually saved DZ the round because Pambazoo was the tip of the spear on the entry into site. He had lost HP earlier. So if he didn't have the Finka to heal him back up to make that push, might have been a very different story. So I like this Finka pick from DarkZero, this thing that they're doing. She's an underrated operator, to be sure. She has been buffed a lot recently. So yeah, it's good to see her, I guess. Aids in those really brazen, aggressive plays, for sure.
And it worked out. I mean, hey, there's the first one that's going to go. Hot and Cold just sprints on out. Now looks up above at the hatch. You hear some noise. Hyper could have engaged there, but no. Hyper will stop and think otherwise of it. Hot and Cold walks away with that pick onto BC. This is damning for DarkZero. It's an Aviator defense for Space Station. And now DZ is without a hard breacher. There's not even one of those secondary hard breach tools for DZ to use either. Because of this, they're just going to have to go in without the added destruction of Ace. That's going to be mighty tough.
Yeah, not having hard destruction in this situation, I don't think he got anything open. I will say there is a soft wall in Study, but that's held by a mirror window. Yeah, this is going to be difficult for DZ, but they do get Houghton and Rampy, who's trying to assist Houghton. That is not the play, Rampy. But of course, he realized that too late. You saw the hesitation on the staircase. Unfortunately, Bosco not playing an aggressive enough angle to see the 3 players training up the main stairs. And now with that control, DarkZero have an excellent platform for execution, where once, without their hard breacher, they were in a desperate position. They have once again salvaged their situation, but it's not over yet. They still have to hit the site.
And that was 30 seconds as well. This has been a deceptively quick round, Michael, as another one of those adrenal surges goes off, and DZ will try to break on through that bar door. Bosco trying to stop him, but there's 2 grenades in front of him, and will he survive? The answer is no. The first one doesn't get him, but the second one does indeed. Now Eclipses, and they'll look to push inside a vault. He's good enough for one, but Fultz with the Vector in hand will have to stop them. A swing for Pambazoo. 5 in a row from DarkZero as they have turned this one around fully and have complete control over the map.
Parker, I don't think anyone was planting. That was 1 second left. If he had just survived, that might have still been an SSG round, though I didn't catch it quite at the end. I'm going to need to see the replay for that one or catch it when the delay is up later. So I'll double check that one, but I'm not sure I saw a plant going down there right at the end. That was a desperate situation, to be sure, for DarkZero and SSG alike. But once again, the aggression from the attack prevails. One thing is true through all of these rounds. The attacking team wins if they play aggressive. This is true for DarkZero. This is true for SSG. When they just stack up and go for an aggro play, attackers are winning. If they linger, if they languish, the defense are just going to take the round for free. And likewise, the aggression's been working out for the defenders when it does. I mean, we haven't seen any of that for DarkZero yet, but it worked out great for SSG in the second quarter of this match.
I don't even know what you do at this point if you're Space Station. Before we got into the second half, you tipped your hand in favor of Space Station and said, yeah, I think they have a bit of a leg up still, and I don't think that DZ is going to take full command. Well, unfortunately, in terms of your prediction, well, it's looking like you are currently being reelected the mayor of Wrongsville, young man.
Population me.
There you go. It's just you there, and you are the mayor.
Yes.
Also deputy mayor.
You know,
Both,
I did actually put some channel points on DarkZero.
Can you even do that? Gambling on the matches, Michael?
Yes, I
don't think that's allowed, by the way.
But I did it because the percentages just favored SSG so astronomically that, you know, it was like, yeah, DarkZero wins. I get a big payout, so I'm not gonna lie and pretend like I I actually expected this.
Unbelievably biased caster now, but hey, DarkZero look like they're trying to make you be even more right than you were with those channel points. They looked like they were going to go for a rush through Laundry. It gets stopped in its tracks by Spacestation. Halt! Halt with your 2 rush tails. They can't head in, so they will instead go back to the drawing board. Nothing ventured, nothing gained there. Hyper lost half of his HP. That's about it. As for the rest of DZ, well, you saw an opportunity, it disappeared. So now go about doing the work that you need to. This is a defense of Kitchen down below. After 2 unsuccessful defenses of the same bomb site, SSG is now finally switching things up. And instead of going to Trophy Statuary, they're going to go with the site that is pretty much below it. Instead, they're going to look to have quite a bit of forces on this second floor, wasting time. Hot and Cold is one of them, and he's going to lose some of that protection as the hard destruction of BC goes off right in front of his very eyes. Hot with the pre-fire, but he won't find anything towards the bedroom, and now he's completely peeled off, leaving Thinking Nate in this position on Astro to hold down the fort.
Got a good shield to do just that. All he needs to do is wait and hope there's not enough utility to burn, and it looks like there will be. No ADSs, shield goes bye-bye, but that's just fine for Thinking Nate. He can leave or continue to fight without the shield. Very dangerous angle to play, but Thinking Nate's been all right so far in winning those dangerous fights. Now, right now, this is the slowest attack I've seen from DarkZero, and this, I think, is where things get a little bit tricky, because, again, I mentioned it earlier, and I still think this is true. When you are really slow in your attacks, there will be struggles. Spacestation does lose the first player, though, and it's Houghton, who is playing by top red. With him gone, one of the roamers dealt with, DZ can shift their focuses a little bit more attentively to the site. There are still roamers to address, but there's fewer.
Loss of Houghton and now Fultz as well will really underscore how much the remaining 3 players of Spacestation are underperforming in terms of frags, and they're going to need to start finding something as they are all very deep in the negatives at the moment. Bosco will shrug off a lot of damage, try to take matters into his own hands, but Eclipse is better than that. A flawless round is currently in the works. It's Thinking Nate to try and stop that. He gets a down, but it's not a kill, and with that flawless round, DarkZero has won 6 rounds in a row.
Oh boy.
And are on match point.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, Barker. Okay. So that was the slowest round we've seen successful for the attackers. Now I know. We did see just a round ago, actually, one round go down to the last second. The actual contact on the site was much more succinct in that round than this one. This one was a little bit more drawn out. The engagements went for longer. And when SSG was in that situation, on their attacking half, they failed to secure those rounds. In fact, they barely even got to the site, many of those. So, struggles. Now, DarkZero are proving their proficiency here. And that's the slight edge that I think they are going to, well, they clearly have secured, that might gain them the win in this match overall. Both of these teams are reflecting each other in many ways. There's a lot of similarities going on here. And I think there's still a lot of talent on both sides. But Parker, you called focus to one issue in particular on Space Station's side, and it does seem like a bit of a cop-out. I do think it's relevant, though. Thinking Nate, Rampy, and Bosco, where are you? You know, this sometimes happens, and it's not an unusual or bad thing necessarily for the long term of a team, but in the short term here, now, with Hot and Cold and Fultz are both the 2 earliest deaths for many of these defensive rounds. Yeah, Thinking Nate, Rampy, and Bosco need to... They gotta get the refrags, Parker. They gotta contribute on the scoreboard more. There's no other option.
Attacker's objective is to locate a bomb and defuse it.
It's tough going for this team, and I mean, you look at the underlying stats of this. Fultz picked up 10 kills through the first 5 rounds, or through the first 6 or 7 rounds. I think he was at 9 kills after the 6th round ended. He's only found 2 since then. Hot and Cold, I believe, was at 6 after the 6th round. He's only picked up 1 since then. If you look at objective play, well, I mean, you don't really need to get the diffuser down if you're just winning the slugfests that DZ have been engaging in and coming out ahead on. But in terms of opening duels, Space Station have actually won 6 of the 9 rounds so far, and yet they only have 3 rounds to their name. In fact, DarkZero, when they were on defense, despite finishing that first half 3-3, they only won a single opening duel. Well, you can begin to add to that as that continues to grow from the one that DZ had, but now Space Station seems to be hitting their marks and finding their targets as the opening pick goes in favor of DZ, but these teams are going to come to blows really early on. Hyper and Panbazoo down for DZ, Thinking Nate and Bosco down for Space Station. And as much as I hate to just read the scoreboard, the fact that Hyper, the top frag, with Panbazoo right behind him as the second frag on DarkZero are gone, And Fultz and Hot and Cold are still up for SSG. In terms of raw power, this is a major win for Space Station.
Certainly. Best round we've seen from them on defense. As you said, Parker, it's been one after another in a row for DarkZero. They just cannot seem to stop. Maybe this is where they take a little bit of a break. SSG just need to hold out for half the round. They have 3 gas canisters and 1 C4 to do just that with. Plenty of utility still on DarkZero's side, though, and they do have their hard destructors. So this is certainly not over yet. Slow going on the master clear. BC and NJR will be the 2 tasked with this job. They can open the wall, assuming the Kaid Electro Claws have been dealt with. Now, I do not know if that is the case, but if it is, then all right. Those 2 Selmas give more leverage to the attackers as they start setting up for the execution. Only 1 wall unelectrocuted, and it will get opened up, but it will not give much of an angle into sight, really. C4 goes out, and it misses. That's a big loss there for SSG.
40 seconds left, and SSG's guns continuing to do good work. NJR will now try to deal with the Jaeger, who's retaking from Astro Stairs. He's side by side with BC, and he has all 3 of his adrenal surges left. You got to use one of those, NJR, or else you're going to die with them in your pocket. Finally, 1 comes out, and onto drone, the DZ members will go, but Hot and Cold's holding this rad angle. He gets 1, Fultz gets the other. The gunners on SSG come alive, and they finally break the streak that DZ was on to stay alive, though DarkZero will still sit on match point.
Oh, man, I love to see this back and forth. Neither team allowing the other to lock this one out. It's been looking desperate for both teams in different situations. At the beginning, it looked like this was going to be a stomp for SSG, 3 rounds in a row. DarkZero answer back immediately, end the first half, 3-3. Then they pick up even more rounds, put themselves on match point, 3 more in a row, 6 total. DarkZero looks indomitable. Suddenly, Space Station figure out they still have teeth. Take those fights head-to-head on the roam, slow that attack down just enough so that the anchors can wait out and win it off of the inevitable push into the bottlenecks from DarkZero. Love that for Space Station. Love it for both teams, in fact. This has been a great match so far. That last round, really got to commend the SSG. I'm trying to figure out a way to put this. Bravery is what I'm going to say. The other way you could say it is a little bit inappropriate. The bravery on SSG being down 3 rounds and just straight taking fights on the roam. That is some confidence.
Well, I mean, both of these teams in the past have had issues with being able to close out. Are we about to see the beginning of DZ doing what happened yesterday? Sitting on match point and letting the lead slowly slip away. Round over round, drop over drop. And SSG begins to find momentum and pushes them into overtime. Well, they've already got 1 round. 2 more to go from SSG, and then we can see extra innings. But with the way that they've been playing so far, I don't exactly know if I have the utmost confidence in Space Station to be able to do that. They're going to go back to Aviator and Games. This is their 3rd crack at this site. They've been unsuccessful through the first 2 attempts. So DZ knows how to play this. They've looked mighty good while doing it, and even though the last attempt, SSG had a big advantage, DZ were still able to make it work.
Calm before the storm here. Neither team in contact point yet. Direct master take from DarkZero. Down goes the mirror window from below. And that's progress. Solid progress for DZ. They don't have to worry so much about closet, but the angle's still open, and they need to be about this Mira. Nice spray there from Hodden. He won't get the kill until the shotgun comes out. No read from the player in the window, but it's from below. Pambazoo to get it. Drop goes down there for 2 players on SSG. Even exchange, and they'll both teams disengage.
Hyper was able to continue moving in this direction and Rampy in a similar position. But, oh no, Hyper's just a little bit too far behind. He gives his position away, so for a moment, SSG's attention will be in that direction. The damage being done to Bosco, who's now going to play off this angle, take more damage as well as Hyper persists in this angle. Bosco's going to be seeing red after that one. Playing inside of Games, just over a minute to go. He needs to be very careful with this. His position being the way that it was means that the black mirror is opened up. Means less defense for SSG to play behind, and less security as well. Bosco, even though he's on a shred of HP, still has those 3 toxic canisters, so it's crucial that he remains upright for the remainder of this round.
more patience. Both of these teams realizing how close this one is and how the potential for the lockout is abundant. 40 seconds, though, for DarkZero, and I don't think the rush strat's going to work again for them this time. SSG has to be ready for that. So the setup needs to be a little bit quicker here for DZ, or they are going to have some trouble.
And there's another toxic canister tossed out from Bosco. He's got one remaining with 30 seconds to go. A little bit of damage being done as it's tickling the players from DarkZero and thinking nades all to shreds through Pambazoo. NJR getting the plant down quite well. That smoke does not work at all. Sitting on top of it, and he's going to be punished for it as he tries to escape. Only 2 members of DZ left. But here's the thing. You've got time on your side. SSG has to work within the 30 seconds that are present, or else that diffuser goes beyond the point of no return. For DZ, that means the ball game. They win this one and walk away from it. But unfortunately for them, they are losing out on their numbers. No way Hyper gets 2 of them, but finally SSG gets it. There's just too many angles for him to cover, and Rampy will have no problem with that diffuser. SSG lives to see yet another round, and DZ's 2 attempts to put this matchup away have failed. If they don't succeed here, we've got overtime in the books, and what will be a repeat of yesterday's match where DZ struggled to close out.
Yes, you know what that is actually, Parker? Well, this is 2 days in a row, 2 matches in a row where Hyper has picked up 10 or more kills. Yesterday, again, I believe it was around 19. So far, he's doing around 14-ish. We'll see the scoreboard in a bit. And I think it's safe to say that DarkZero are trying to make these matches go as long as possible so as to pad Hyper's stats. I think there's no other answer. That is the clear directive of the team right now. And it shows in that last round. He got 2 amazing kills, but even he was not enough to bring this one to a win for DarkZero. 1 away from overtime. That is, well, that's tricky for DZ. SSG are definitely putting up a fight here. Oh, and also the late rush strat in through Aviator, must be said, did not work out the same way it did the first time they attempted that. SSG was ready for that. So we are seeing some adjustments here. We're seeing some adaptation. Again, it's a case of both of these teams being a little uncertain, but also being so capable of adjusting to the circumstances they are presented with. And I love that. They're proactive, they're reactive, they're good teams, Parker. 12 out of 10.
Now, as we ready ourselves for the very final round before overtime could await us, let's talk about certain players that are in this lobby. We talked early on before the match started. In regards to the community question, who would persevere and who would come out ahead? Would it be Pambazoo or would it be Hot and Cold? Well, right now, Hot and Cold is 10-8, or rather 10-9 with 8 assists. Pambazoo is 9-7. That is quite remarkable for both of these players. A good bounce back from Hot and Cold, though Pambazoo does have the slight edge in terms of KD. The man that top fragged so admirably yesterday, Hyper, he sits at 32 kills, Michael. 32 kills so far through these 2 matchups. That is unheard of.
Right. Yeah, you don't really see back-to-back amazing performances like that, except for at LANs. Sometimes we see that. But yeah, Hyper is coming at this stage with a vengeance so far, and I'm looking forward to seeing future matches from him and the rest of his team, who seem to be finding their legs here. Now, 1 round away from overtime grab for SSG. DarkZero going for a direct laundry. The first nade works for DarkZero, and they get the leadoff pick. That's the smoke of all operators gone.
The last time DarkZero attempted this bomb site, they were looking in the same area, rush in through laundry and clean up, but they were stopped in their tracks. So instead, they had to go on to this drone work. This time around, they've dislodged one of the most formidable parts of SSG's defense. Bolts is there to cover, playing over by the nook inside of kitchen, watching towards pantry, and can also cover towards laundry as that pantry wall's now been opened up. That's a little bit of pressure that's been alleviated, as you've now got a clearer line of sight in for DarkZero. SSG can play around it as well, but with just about a minute to go, DZ will have to hasten the pace, and they have an advantage to go with that.
Yeah, we've seen both teams slow down quite a lot as this is grinded towards the end of the match. And now the pressure is on DarkZero to make sure that they don't waste too much time before executing. Yes, they did get the lead off, but that does not win you the round every time. I think it's only around 60% these days, honestly. I haven't looked at it in a while, though. Anyway, here they are, getting ready for the execute.
Now, if you look at opening picks, they haven't really been as impactful as you'd think so far in this matchup. Is that abnormal? Is that an outlier? Well, we'll find out later on. But instead, let's shift our focus to the final 35 seconds. And like we talked about, Numbers advantage for DarkZero, but they've got a hard task, which is to get in and deal with the remaining members of SSG. The advantage they had is now gone as Rampy trades one off. Back and forth they'll go into a 3v3 with 20 seconds remaining, and spam marks are coming in. Hot and Cold capitalizes off of that. Diffuser down, another mark for him to engage on, but no, it's from the back. Instead there's an Ash, but Rampy's on a flank of his own. Panbazoo in a 1v2. Match on the lineup for DZ. Can Panbazoo stop him? He'll plant behind the deployable shield, but he's going to get pinched. Thinking Nate has one angle, Rampy has the other. It's all just a matter of time. Panbazoo won't get it down, and it's SSG's streak now to send us into overtime as DZ on match point surrender 3 rounds in a row, and we've got overtime to settle the score.
The tale of two teams who would just not stay down, Parker. When one seems to be in a position to lock the match out, the other swings right back, and the noses continue to be bloody. Gets worse and worse as it goes on, but better and better for all of us. Now, that round, DarkZero, they get a little aggro inside of Laundry. It looks like they're going for possibly a direct site rush, but they don't commit fully to it. They get the leadoff pick. Somebody calls, no, wait. We got the man advantage. We got the smoke. Let's play this strategically. So, DarkZero disengages. They start setting up for the execute. They try to clear out some of the roamers, but they end up wasting so much time, they have to divert back direct to the site, this time from Pantry, and it almost looks like it's working until they start getting flanked by those roamers who had too much time free to roam, because the roam clear was so slow and ineffective from DarkZero. So that shift in direction for DarkZero in the middle of the round, where they decided after they got that lead-up pick, let's try something different, that completely destroyed their attack. They split themselves up, they start going for an execute direct onto site, but SSG at no point got distracted and fell back to the site as DZ expected. As a result, those roamers paid dividends. So, 6-6. SSG start on defense, DarkZero start on attack. Neither side is in the advantage column. It's been 3-3 halves all around. We'll see how this one goes.
Well, a tip of the hat to SSG for finally figuring out what was going on with DZ's attacks on that one, and they didn't really have a timeout to spare either. They just did it just normally on their own. Congratulations to them, and a clap. Let's do a clap for them. Well, congratulations, Space Station. But
yay.
These teams entered the day even after one play day. Towards the top of the NA standings, obviously. You had SSG in second place, DarkZero in third place. It's only a single game. It's something that the analysts talked about in the pre-show segment about the power rankings and how much these things are going to change over the course of this stage. So, I mean, you can't take too much from it, but I think there's a lot to look at from both of these squads. Otten has been having a good performance. Panbazoo in particular has had a much stronger game, I would argue, here on Villa than he did yesterday on Consulate, and this round in particular. Another round of applause for Panbazoo as he gets the leadoff kill on the very first round of overtime. DarkZero just spent the previous 6 rounds on attack, and how convenient for them in the first round of OT. They are back doing the same thing. Though we will caution you, with a minute and just about a minute and a half left in this round, the first pick has been nowhere near as important in this matchup as it usually is.
Right. So this could amount to nothing for DarkZero, but only time will tell. Half the round, speaking of, left to go. This is going to be a dedicated roam clear on the north side. They've already done a good job of that. The SSG will revert back to some of the old NA tactics that we've seen a lot of recently. Well, before SI, we saw a lot of this, where you'll fall back after about a half round on your roam. You'll just leave the roam. Like, oh yeah, we wasted enough time. Let's go ahead and leave. Like, we can't get more of an advantage out of waiting and holding out a little bit longer. Anyway, so that's what SSG has done. They also might have been prompted by the loss of Rampy. So I don't know what the shot call is. What we do know is that DZ gets the real estate they wanted on the north side. They could translate that into an execute on the site. Last time we were here, though, SSG did push us one more round in their favor, so there's no favor decided in either way, in my opinion.
Everybody on SSG is just waiting and will essentially welcome this DZ execute with, once again, DZ holding this numbers advantage. Now, a previous defensive aviator started out exactly like this for SSG. Except the other way around. SSG had an advantage, and despite that, DZ just pushed in and won all of their engagements. The roles are reversed at this point. An Adrenal Surge is going to go off, and that's the sounding bell as BC takes out another member of Space Station. The smoke will not connect as the way they need it to, and the diffuser goes down successfully from DarkZero as they now get out of dodge. Cold will wander on in. Is Vector finding one target? I don't think they know that on top of the diffuser sits none other than the Finka of NJR. 2 kills in a row for SSG, answered back by Hyper. A flash avoided from Houghton. He's gonna shred through, down goes Hyper. It's all of a sudden a 2v2. The advantage DZ had is gone. He can't get on that diffuser as much as he wants to. There's presence down below of Pambazoo. Adrenal surge, heartbeat pounding in his ears, and the bullets pounding in Hot and Cold's head. Bosco now with the shotgun out, he hears the LMG, he will take the engagement, but look at the time, only 3 seconds left. Even if Bosco gets the kill, it's just for posterity. You are past the point of no return, and DZ are back on match point.
Great play there from Pambazoo to extricate himself from that situation and play the diffuser from below. That was the exact correct call in that scenario. So DarkZero, they benefit from that. Despite the excellent retake from SSG, I, though, have to mention, and I feel like this is just, we saw it once already. That's the second time that with plenty of utility, C4s, gas canisters, plenty in the pockets of SSG, they fail to halt a plant behind the vault door. That is one of the most common plant spots. It is so common that it has gone in a circle of commonality. It was common at the start when Villas was introduced to competitive play. Then it was no longer common because it was so heavily countered by all the professional teams. They started planting by the bomb chassis or behind the map. People just stopped planting behind the door. And now it is right back to being common once again. You should still know how to deny that plant. There is no excuse. 2 C4s in that round were still up, and the gas canisters just missed. If you hear the tapping, do something about it.
There was a hilarious tweet from the man so nice they named him twice, Spencer Oliver, aka Slashug, aka Splashug, aka Slash yesterday. I don't know if you saw it.
No, I did not.
But he said smoke players today, and it's a picture of a guy playing basketball making free throws, and they are just all going wide. None of them are even hitting the net, let alone going in. And if you watch the matches yesterday in the NA League, it seems like the changes to Smoke's propagation have resulted in most NA Smokes needing to go back and maybe work on their lineups a little bit.
Yeah.
The smoke tossed out by the door to vault with the old propagation system would hit the default plant spot. I don't know if the intention was to either get somebody playing by the model or to actually get somebody behind the door in vault, but it wasn't working. And the smokes on defense have proved so far to be ineffective. So this is just something that we can keep our eyes on in all of these games, because if smokes are not having anywhere near as much success stopping the diffuser from going down, well, then teams might start either swapping out operators or swapping out roles or trying to change some things up. It's also going to strengthen a lot of these default spots. I say all of that, by the way, DZ is not running a single smoke here. This is a very similar setup to what we saw previously, where they invest very heavily in closet. You can see the Aruni gates there. You can see there was a frost mat as well. On SSG, I've taken about a minute so far to clear out that part of the map.
Yeah, well, mirror window being broken from below, and I don't think there's anyone in closet, so it's mostly just this angle that Hyper's playing now. He could play it without the mirror window. When someone vaults through that window, they will be at a decided disadvantage in that engagement, so he basically gets a free kill, especially with NJR protecting him. If Hyper loses that somehow, which is very unlikely, NJR will be prompted for the refrag, and he will likely get it. Pressure through the drone hole, though, is not great for NJR. It'll force him to play further back than he wants to. What we can say for sure is that even though neither team has managed to get a kill, this time being wasted is huge for DarkZero, and they add to it by getting the lead off on defaults. That is massive. The wall will get opened up even wider, and SSD are starting to flounder.
Well, I like the small change by DarkZero. You've moved Eclipse out of that position. He was playing on the dock to die before, and now he's a little bit farther back to watch the scene unfold and force SSG to still take this part of the map, but instead, they don't have a target in sight. Instead, the various members of DZ are much farther back. All the while, they got that lead-off pick on the Fultz. Rampy has been down as well. So now NJR will wait, and he sees the head of the Nomad of Thinking Nade, and NJR will just continue to hold this position. SSG have control of bathroom. They know that there's somebody playing inside of Astronomy. Hot and Cold is now being tagged in to deal with it. But there's one on the flank. It's Eclipse down below. He doesn't see Hot and Cold. He gets shredded. Pambazoo pops up. Down goes Bosco. All the while, NJR still in this spot. He's up, and everybody from SSG is down. Rampy in a 1v4. Easy in the best position to just lock this one out. There's some marks for them. Rampy has a lot to do. 15 seconds to go. He'll wait. Nobody from DZ needs to move a single muscle. And there's NJR to finish it off. Playing behind this spot. Goodness gracious, DZ, you know how to give your fans a heart attack. And despite surrendering all those rounds on attack, they come through in the clutch and they win it 8-6.
What a match from DarkZero. What a match from both teams. Incredible play across the board. Pambazoo playing so much better than his first match. 14 kills for the man. And he was one of the top performers. 3 people got 14. Hot and Hyper and Pambazoo. Across the board, a great performance from them. That last round. Frostmat. the default, the most basic Frostmat, Parker. The one on the closet window got a down for DarkZero. You can't make it up on match point round.
Really, just really incredible. Imagine being a DZ fan. Imagine waking up in the morning, Michael, having a great day, starting off your day really well. Having a nice glass of orange juice, brushing your teeth, and then sitting down to watch your favorite team play. And instead of having an enjoyable, relaxing day at which DarkZero beats the stuffing out of your opponents for the second day in a row, DarkZero goes on to match point and then proceeds to send most of their fan base into cardiac arrest round after round after round. We are watching DZ fans lose minutes to hours off of their lives with the way that DZ is playing, Michael. But regardless, DZ still comes out with a win. Both of them so far this season have been in overtime, so they're leaving points on the table, but a win is a win when it comes to this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it certainly is. And I want to mention, we talked about Pambazoo. He did great. Hyper, as per usual, did great. Hyper, holy, wow. I mean, he's probably going to be in the top 5 for NA statistically after this one. I'm not, this is just a guess, really, but it's likely. Hodden had a better day than his first 2. He dropped 14, same as the other 2. So great job to Hodden. He's showing a little bit of that life we saw from him in stage 1, again, where he finished 2nd overall. Maybe we'll see more of that from him later down the line. Just in general, though, a great match, and we're all lucky to have been here to watch it. Seriously, strategically, this was really quite interesting.
And there's still 3 more to go, Michael. We are nowhere near finished. So if you like high-octane Rainbow Six, don't go anywhere because there's 3 more matchups to go. But before we throw to a break, as we usually would, let's toss it over to Veli, who's going to talk with our newest sponsor, AimLab.